Hello. So this week in HIT 225, we have Chapter 3, Intro to Databases and Data Analytics. So in this chapter, we have a lot of definitions, I want to say, kind of defining what databases, data analytics, queries, and data mining are. So when we talk about data analytics, it's the science of examining raw data, and the purpose is to draw conclusions, look for trends. It includes data mining, machine learning, development of models, and statistical measurements. Okay, so like I said, a lot of definitions. So for data analytics, we have descriptive analytics. So this describes data such as means, frequency distributions, and used to describe the characteristic of a specific group or population. Diagnostic analytics helps a healthcare organization determine why something happened. Predictive analytics, it's a process to identify patterns used to predict the odds of a particular outcome. And prescriptive analytics, it uses information generated from descriptive and predictive analytics and modeling to determine a strategy for the best outcome or to suggest how to move forward or solve a problem. So a database is an organized collection of logically related data, text references, or pictures in a standardized format, typically stored in a computer system. Why do we use databases? It helps to share data, streamline workflow, assist in clinical decision-making, provide information for manager-level decisions, and provide data for data analysis. So a database administrator is the individual responsible for the technical aspects of the database, so they can be responsible for designing as well as managing. Data stewardship, this is the accountability and a continuum of stewardship responsibilities across the data lifecycle. And health data stewardship is in regards to health data, so any regulatory and accreditation conditions, or any other organizational obligations to guarantee that health information is used appropriately. All right, so I believe we talked about this previously. There is a certification out there called CHDA, which is through a HEMA, Certified Health Data Analyst. So by having this certification, it shows that you have knowledge to acquire, manage, analyze, interpret, and transform data into accurate, consistent, and timely information. So something to look into if, data is where you're thinking you will go in your career. Okay, Triple AIM is a concept that was developed by the Institute for Healthcare Improvement. There's 3 aspects of Triple AIM: improve the patient experience of care, improve the health of the population, and reduce the per capita cost of healthcare. Currently in the US, we spend more per person, per capita, than any other country. So a lot of that is due to our administrative costs when it comes to how our healthcare system works. Requirements for database. It should meet the healthcare organization's needs. A data set is a list of recommended data elements with uniform definitions that are relevant. And one of the most common uses of data sets is Uniform Hospital Discharge Data Set, UHDDS. Data scrubbing can also be called cleansing and involves the detection, removal, or correction of incorrect, incomplete, or poorly formatted data in the HIT systems. So it detects and eliminates duplicate or redundant information, mistakes during data entry, invalid values within the information system. Okay, so database management system manipulates and controls the data stored within the database to meet the needs of the user. And parts of a DBMS, data definition language, data manipulation language, data control language, and the data dictionary, which basically defines each data field. Okay, natural language queries. These use common words to tell the database which data are needed. A query by example is a query method where the user only has to point and click to choose tables and fields contained in the database. There's a Boolean search. This is narrowing down data using and, or not functions. And then wildcard search used to look for variations in the word. So maybe an example of that would be if a patient has the flu, so one doctor might write flu and then another doctor might write influenza. So being able to find those variations and knowing that they mean the same thing. Okay, SQL, structured query language. This is the standard language for relational databases. The data definition, the SQL defines data elements, manipulates data, and controls access. So data definition components of SQL allow the user to create tables, delete tables, and show how something is viewed. Data dictionary, like I said before, it's the descriptive list. It's just like a dictionary. It defines all the names, definitions, and attributes of data elements to make sure that the use is consistent. Data dictionary also aids in improving data quality, data integrity, documentation, data analysis, and data reuse. Within a data dictionary, we have metadata. So metadata is defined as data about data. So it's like really drilling down to get more information about the data we already have. So there's 3 types. We have descriptive, which addresses specific data elements. Structural, which is a process of acquiring, storing, manipulating, and displaying. And administrative, this is like your audit trail and access activity reports. It shows who accessed the information system and what they did while they were in there. And then a mask is a format in which data are displayed. Okay, so when it comes to data standards, we have data content standards, which are clear guidelines for the acceptable values for specific data fields. So it makes it possible to exchange health information easier when there's clear guidelines in place. Vocabulary is a list or collection of clinical words or phrases with their meanings. So an example of this would be SNOMED CT. Data modeling is the process of determining the user's information needs and identifying relationships among data. So we have a conceptual data model, which defines requirements for the database to be developed. Physical data model shows how the data are physically stored. And logical data model ensures data is available and in a useful format for the intended purpose. Okay, with data modeling, we have entity relationship diagrams, which is ERD. There are a couple, you'll be able to see some in your textbook. They have some illustrations to show you how this works. And it's a common type of data modeling that focuses on relationships between entities. So when we talk about an entity, we're talking about a person, location, thing, or concept. An attribute is facts or data about the entity. And then relationships, one-to-one. So an example of that would be a patient. A patient has one attending physician, one-to-many. Patient may have multiple lab tests, and many-to-many. Lab tests may be performed on multiple patients. So some data modeling tools. We have computer-aided software engineering, designed to create many of the diagrams and other tools used in a data model. We have a data flow diagram. It shows how data moves, so the input, storage, and output within the system. Use case is a technique used to develop scenarios based on how users will use the data and functionality to assist in developing information systems. Some common database models. We have relational database models that typically are put in table format and have the following fields. They'll have alphabetic, numeric, alphanumeric, time and date, or auto numbering. Okay, so that should look familiar to last week's EHR Go, structured and unstructured data. Okay, so relational databases look for normalization, breaking the data elements into the level of detail desired, and they can be query-based, where you can search for data that meets specific criteria. And within relational databases, there are 2 key fields. We have the primary key, which is a unique identifier, And then a foreign key, which is a primary key from another table. So it searches multiple tables to find something that, identifies that patient. We have the hierarchical database model. This uses nodes and pointers. So a good example of this is like an organizational chart, which is hierarchical. So you'll have like the CEO and president on top, and then it just goes down from there from highest level to lowest. So it's kind of like a parent-child relationship, meaning like your boss or CEO would be more of the parent, and people reporting to the CEO would be like the child. Okay, network database model. This is owners and members, uses pointers to connect data. An object-oriented database model. This is text, images, audios, videos, and any other object. And an example would be Java, which is a program language used on the internet. Multi-dimensional database model. This is used in data warehouses because it enables data analysis with a wide range of data. Okay, next we have data repository and data warehouse. So a repository is a database, open structure, in which data from multiple IISs are stored so that an integrated multidisciplinary view of the data can be achieved in a single source. So the data repository contains clinical, administrative, and financial data. And then we also have clinical data repositories that are there that store clinical data, so used by the healthcare provider. Data warehouse makes it possible to access data from multiple databases and combine the results into a single query and reporting interface. And then data mart is a subset of the data warehouse designed for a single purpose or specialized use. Data mining is the process of extracting and analyzing large volumes of data, and the purpose would be to identify hidden relationships, or usually what they're looking at is like trends, like what are we seeing that is happening that normally doesn't. So it's really drilling down in that data to be able to really identify trends and other types of relationships that wouldn't be noticed if you couldn't analyze the data. Okay, there are various data mining techniques. If you look on page 53 of your textbook, it goes through in detail all of these techniques, which are anomaly detection, so looking for something that isn't common, anomaly, association rule learning, cluster analysis, classification analysis, and regression analysis. Okay, so I definitely recommend taking a look in your book. Data mining, you have OLAP, online analytical processing. It allows the user to retrieve specific info from a large volume of data. So the methods used would be drilling down into the data, consolidating data, and slicing and dicing to form conclusions. Examples of data mining would be best practices in patient care, or what data mining can help clinicians and health organizations realize is best practices in patient care. They can mine down to see what medications are causing adverse effects. They'd be able to see maybe potential fraud and abuse violations, patterns of mortality and morbidity, and patterns of denials of claims. All right, that is chapter 3 in a nutshell. Hope this was helpful. I know it was a lot of definitions and a lot of information, but just definitely try to understand the differences between the definitions and you should be good. Thank you. Have a great week.